Skiza flow na conversation, essentially speaking.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Essentially Speaking. This is season 2. Your boy's back. My name is Noel Nderitu. So stoked to do this again. And joining me today, special guests, international guests. You know what I'm saying? All the way from the ZIM.
Bruh, you have to introduce me like an MVP, like 2-time MVP in high school.
I have your stats.
High school, yeah.
I have your stats. All right, averaging 1 point and 0.5 steals in his high school career.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the rookie of the year. Tatenda Chikwekwe, man, is joining me, aka TC. You guys might know him, you might not. Peace has come to Zimbabwe. You know that song?
Stevie Wonder. Yeah, I know.
Karibu, man. Thanks for
having me, man. I'm excited. I watched the last season's great. So I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me. Yeah.
Asante. We're going to jump straight into it. Today we are talking about marriage. And our question is marriage placed on a pedestal in our culture? Like, is it a thing we are still aspiring to? Is it a thing we feel like, you know what I'm saying? It's not for me. It's not for me. But especially like in Christian circles, like I feel like it has some good things. It has some things that, you're like, is that something we should be doing? So I wanted to kind of talk about it. And I don't know about you culturally growing up. But here, I feel like it was something we aspired to. And then it got to the point where, at least for me, like in Pentecostal circles, like it's like almost like it's the thing that completes you. Like, wow, that babe, man, she's 27, she has a nice job. But if only she could just get married. So like all your accolades are diminished just because of
that one thing.
That one thing that hasn't happened. And I always felt like it posed an unhealthy threat. But there's also some merit to, urging people to do it, because there are some guys who date their babes for 9 years, and you're wondering, so you just marry, and it's like, no, I'm not ready. I'm like, hey. So there's two sides to this convo, and I want us to dive in. But maybe you can tell us. I think for me, that's how it's been. That's what I've seen. Is there anything you saw growing up and then now coming to Kenya and seeing how we value it? And is there any similarity, any difference?
No, it's like that. I think for the most, there's one thing that's like primarily for Africans, and then Africans who are Christians, right? Especially Africans who are Christians. I think it's like you have no status, you have no say, you need to get married. In fact, if you're not married, you're seen as like morally suspicious.
So it's an African thing.
Yeah, it's like an African Christian, and especially now, it's just like, bro, are you straight? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like, are you straight? Is there something wrong?
Yeah.
What's going on? But that's like a certain generation as well. It's varied depending on different generations. But in church, you see that with leaders like pastors who are single. They were they didn't have the stature of people who were like married. And then if the moment you start talking to someone, it's like, hey, when you're getting married, people who are entrusted with leadership in church, people are entrusted with different things. It's almost like we've given marriage I think it's that thing where it's taking something that's good, because marriage is good in itself. It's great to be married. You should want to get married, but it's taking something that is good and making it ultimate, right? Then that's when we start getting the problem.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's been some pressure, if you will. Do you think there's any cultural pressure? I mean, you've mentioned this cultural pressure, but is there a biblical pressure, like, to get married? Like, I feel like sometimes, like you've said, it's made ultimate, almost as if the Lord has said himself, if you don't do A, B, C, D. I mean, Paul, 1 Corinthians 7 is like, don't do it.
Yeah.
But is it fair to say that the Bible is a proponent of marriage? It is. But is it like, wow, if you don't do this, you're incomplete?
Not really. I think if you see when God said it's not good for a man to be alone, right? And the goal of marriage is community, right? So, in terms of the full length of Bible teaching, the opposite of being single is actually not childlessness or not being married.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of being single is not being in community,
Mm.
because the goal of marriage is actually community, right? You're seeking community. And when he says it's not good for men to be alone,
Yeah.
marriage was just one of the expressions of community.
Yeah.
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 Like the goal of marriage is one of the primary reasons for marriage is community, right? So this is a deeper level of community, and it's just one of the expressions of
Mm.
community. You have people who are married who are not in community with the person they're married to because they were just seeking marriage and not really seeking the primary reasons why marriage was designed. So for me, so the Bible, I think it dignifies, it validates both. Being married, like it's a good thing. There's reasons for it. It's a gift uh, from God, and then it still dignifies being single, to making sure that you're in meaningful community. And what does it mean really? What does the Bible teach from Genesis to Revelation? So there's no better or lesser. I
Yeah.
think as married Christians have made it like rough for people. Like this is the ultimate, all-consuming, all-knowing, the deepest form. Like if you're not, it's impossible for you to be fully known and fully loved outside of marriage, which is
Right.
not, and
Yeah,
and
that's
to be
how we
fully
make it.
human when you're not when you're not married, which is a big lie that I think we are. So I think it's this subculture that's contributed to just this negative way of, people start despairing
Yeah.
just because they're single. But I think
Yeah.
the point is, I think the Bible validates both being single, and Jesus dignified that by staying single, and also marriage. It also dignifies being married. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. You talked about the culture we've set. I remember, like, my marriage is pretty young.
How long you been married,
I'll
bro?
be married. Be married 4 and something. Anyway, I'll be married 5 in November.
Well done.
But I still consider it a young marriage because I feel like I've just started.
And this is your longest marriage to date?
Yeah, bro.
And the only one?
It's the only one. It's the longest to date. The other ones didn't work out. Shout out to y'all.
That's how I introduced myself. I was like, hey, this is my longest marriage.
Yeah.
But it's the only.
No,
yeah.
it's important. Before I start saying I have other people elsewhere, I don't. But the point I was trying to say is, before there was this urge for, you guys need to get married. You guys need to get married. And then once we got married, it was like, all right, take it from here. Yeah, we give you. And I didn't feel like we had the tools we kind of had to figure it out ourselves. Like, I mean, marriage is a relationship, and we have various relationships. I mean, whether it's with your boss, with your parents, you navigate and try and manage relationships. But sometimes I think when you're getting into one that you've never been to before, it's helpful to have some tools. And we did do some, premarital counseling, but that's just like a sprinkle. And I think in the church context, it's usually get married, get married, get married. Then when you get married, okay, cheers, let's go root for the next couple. And you find that a lot of people either don't have the tools to have a healthy environment in their household. And sometimes even when you're dating, like if you're not careful, if you're not authentic enough, you're giving your best foot forward all the time. Like, so she's not seeing the fullness of you when she should be. And so that's another conversation. But now when you're married, like, when I was dating, I could go home and sleep it off if we've upset each other. And then, we carry on. But when you're married, like, you have to deal with it. So I don't know. For you, did you see that as something as you approached it, where you are being told you need to do this, but you're not really being equipped?
Yeah, I think so. I think we start thinking about marriage way too late.
Yeah.
I think you need to think about marriage long before you have to think about marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because people start thinking about marriage 3 months to their wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
Which I think from a young age, you should actually be thinking about it, right? Because I think the Bible teaches when it talks about don't violate the marriage bit, they can violate marriage, whether you're single or married. There's a
Yeah.
way you can live life. I think people needs to start thinking about marriage from a young age. Let me tell you one of the things that make, especially now in this moment, dude, you're seeing at weddings. What percentage of weddings are you have on the card? No kids allowed.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
If not all.
So this generation that's growing up where kids don't even see these rituals,
Yeah.
it's public rituals,
Yeah.
and when they grow up, they won't want them for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that's happening. Two, I think people want to avoid thinking about marriage and being taught about marriage. They think you only have to have this conversation when you're dating or when you have to, or when you have a wedding coming up.
Yeah.
So I think premarital counseling for me is way too late.
Yeah.
You have to start talking to your kids about marriage from a really, I think,
Early stage.
Yeah, from a very early stage. And I think our culture, our church culture, is wedding heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, hey man, all these things for the wedding. And I think we not just isolated. A lot of, we just don't have lonely individuals. We also have lonely couples. I think afterwards it'll be good for people to exist in community.
What do you mean by lonely couples?
So lonely couples is really your marriage is not in community. You know, how as a person you might not have friends.
Yeah.
But your home might not have friends. Like you got friends as individual, but as a home, you're not existing within a community that is pro-marriage, that don't have to always do formal lessons.
Yeah.
But from their lifestyle, from their priority and how they navigate their differences, you can actually see that, hey, there's fights and there's conflicts are actually normal.
Right.
So I think that's a big thing these days where people can get married and you can try to keep programming, or you can just put them in community where they're intentional about, making sure everyone's marriage is flourishing.
Right. That's good. That's good. We talked about isolated marriages. Another thing that I think throughout my dating and into marriage, I saw with people my age, that's like late 20s, early 30s, it's like this idea that I don't want a boring guy. I'm sure you've had that before. And I think it spills over to like who you end up with. There's this, first I'll say two things. Like I feel like marriage, the girls like dream about it. Like they know what
Long before,
dress they're gonna wear. They know, what floral arrangements they're gonna have. For me, bro, I'll tell you, and let me not say it, put it on blast. But I was thinking about those things like way too late. And so for me, it was always like, hey, that's a commitment. I need to make this paper. I need to get my life together before I can even bring someone into my household. So there's that dichotomy where the lady has thought about it. Maybe the wedding, maybe not the marriage, but she has thought about it. The dude hasn't. And then the dude is trying to do right by getting himself financially stable, getting a place to live. And the girl in turn would see that this is boring stuff. Like he's not adventurous. Like so is there, I guess, is there a normalness or a boringness to a healthy marriage? Is it fair for people to call it boring, or is it boring to do the work? Like, because I think there are two aspects there. You might have a boring guy, like
that's true, bro. I think
you might have a boring guy, but
I think I agree with you, but I think that's being influenced by something that's like a broader culture and a cultural moment we're in. I think people now, just our need to be entertained has become insatiable, just as human beings. Think about choice anxiety. How many times do you go on Netflix and think there's nothing to watch?
Yeah.
But that thing is like a ton.
I spend 40 minutes looking for something.
Yeah.
And I don't watch.
That's one. Two, think about just, I feel like we're in this era of like apocalyptic romance, right? Because bruh, you go on IG, right? All those guys look like it's like they're on this, it's like this romance on steroids.
Yeah.
Always like, so you want an Instagrammable marriage. You want marriage that you can contentify, you can turn into content. So 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 people, those guys are shaping our desire and what we should actually be desiring. So the
Mm,
thing is that is maybe we should be questioning our desire, not the objects to say boring. I'm like, should you actually
right.
be
Yeah.
be looking for that? So I think it's just it's yeah, they want a guy who looks a certain way because that space is shaping who's attractive, who's sexy, uh, who is, who gets you the most ratings, who's
Hmm.
you want to get the respect of those you respect.
Yeah.
Like, who do my friends actually think this person is?
Hmm.
So you it's rigged. You go in there with desires that are setting you up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you want this, because of just our proneness to approval and affirmation addiction, that we're not
Yeah.
actually honoring how our true desires are met.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, I can't bring a chopper, fam. Like, sina budget ya chopper. Like, even I see proposals, like how people just plan proposals. I'm like, where?
How did you navigate that, bro? How did you navigate that pressure for yourself?
Me first, the Lord has given me something called a singing voice. So that's
Is
something
Stella
y'all
is
don't,
Stella is Stella watching?
you guys don't, not many people have. It's like a superpower. So it was at the center of my presentation. But yeah, I didn't feel pressure to, like, I've always been, I think I was raised that way, like, uh, use what you have, and I don't overextend to make you feel like now you're special, because now the day I don't have anything, are you gonna feel like? And it was evident in our dating times. There were times where we'd go out to a nice restaurant. There's time where we'd do McFries, and are you going to? Does it suck spending time with me that much that you feel like the experience should only be valid if we're at a high end restaurant? So it goes back to the point you're saying. But yeah, I was just thinking, with the whole marriage thing. Like, I've done it for 4 and something years now, and one of the things that we kind of look at are milestones. When I play at weddings, when I sing at weddings, this the wedding MC is probably gonna be like, "Yo, how many people have been married here? 60 years?" And then, like, an old couple will stand up and will clap like, "Whoa, bruh, 50 years!" So we clap, and then the claps get less when it's okay. 10 years, these guys just started. 8 years. So we kind of judge the quality of marriages by time. But it could be that I've been married 4.5 years and maybe three of them were crappy. It's not valid to call it a quality marriage, is it? I don't think so. So, I guess, what are your thoughts on what a quality marriage is in terms of putting the work in, or even a relationship? It doesn't have to be marriage. Like, maybe you're dating a girl, but it's not the time, I guess, that gives it the quality. What is it exactly? Would you tell people that these are the things that I kind of spend my time on to put in that quality?
Like, I think time is a good metric and something good to celebrate, but it
Yeah.
can't be the only thing, man, that's motivating us.
Hmm.
Like, how durable being durable is actually something great, especially in this era of like catch and release,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people are, it's the attention span is getting shorter,
Hmm.
and just marriage is a lasting less and less. So I can see the reason why people to celebrate, but it can be the only thing that we should look out for our experience. I think one, for like, if you're a Christian, I'm aware that they're like Christians and non-Christians. I think for Christian, obviously, is like, are we like actually living out what the given purpose and meaning of marriage is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is for. It's not just about our own personal satisfaction, but it serves other purposes, and as other meanings
Mm.
other than just a social fixture. So it's like, are we actually fulfilling that? Are we
Yeah.
pursuing that? Are we applying that in our own lives? Are we flourishing as human beings? Are we making this world a better place together?
Yeah.
Because our marriage experience is just not like a social thing that we do. We know that there's a meaning and a purpose, that it serves, and we're making sure we're drawing, uh, helping one another to become, better Christians.
Yeah.
I think they're more. The other important things rather than length of time is meaning,
Hmm.
purpose, flourishing. Am I making the person a better human being?
Yeah.
Um, are we, you know, are we serving any other thing other than just being together?
Right.
Because just being together is just like the lowest form of existence. Because
Yeah.
that's, yeah, easily that satisfaction of just being together is ever diminishing.
Yeah. 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 If you're listening to this on any podcast platform, or if you're watching the visual episode on YouTube, let me ask you a question. When you think about the person you want to be with, what are the top three things that come to mind when you're saying this is what I want to see in the relationship? Before, for me, I think those things were pretty selfish. Like I wanted a hot babe, with a nice figure. Like it was everything I wanted seemed to make me feel like I made the right choice. It was for everyone to see that I've made the right
Yeah,
choice.
you're looking for a trophy.
Yeah, it's like a trophy.
Yeah,
And then you start realizing, hey, by the way, even her, she had uh, desires about the person she wanted to be with, which you fall extremely short on. Uh, and then you start realizing that actually, if I need the trophy to complete me and make me feel like, hey, now I'm the guy, then anyone could fit that bill. It's not necessarily just Stella, but anyone could fit the bill. So I had to scrap that and start thinking, yo, what do I really want in a partner? And then I started seeing actually it's someone that I can build a life with, and I can help them build their life as well. That thing of community in a sense where we are both encouraging each other's purpose, and it went beyond some of the things that are superficial to what we consider close relationships are. But we are at the place where I think marriage now is
now
that.
hold up. Can I ask you a question
Yeah,
on that?
yeah,
If you are the if your daughter is to ask you that question,
yeah.
not any top three, but just any important things that they should look out for, or someone who's watching is like,
Mhm.
man, what are like some of the things that if someone is looking for a life partner,
Yeah.
marriage, what
Yeah.
has become, what do you think is important now? Yeah.
I think it's important first that the person not be responsible for your happiness or your completeness. I think that would be my number one thing to tell people, that you would come into someone else's life with, or not complete in a sense that you've achieved everything you want to achieve, but complete in a sense that you understand who you are enough that you would enhance someone else's life rather than continuously be a burden to them, in terms of them giving you relief, happiness, etc. So I think that's the first thing. I think one of the things young people usually think, because we mentioned it earlier, is this thing will complete you. Like it's the one thing missing from your CV, and sometimes you enter it with um, that mindset that once I get a husband, then or a wife, these things will come into play. So the first thing I'd say is find your completion and your identity, hopefully in Christ, not in the things that IG are offering us that are futile and fleeting. But secondly, also understand that as much as that person brings value to your life, that you bring value to theirs. So there's service there as well, and we are not wired to serve anyone. Like we are wired to serve ourselves. Like when I enter any situation, my first question is, how is this good for me? But in a marriage setting, that question is from both of you all. So you have to be aware that you're serving each other. I think those are the top two things I'd say. I don't know if you have something deeper to add.
Oh, nothing deeper. We just wanted to hear. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's been helpful for me. Like knowing that we are on the same team. I can trust this person fully. You know those stories where you hear so and so is married, but for like 7 years they've been building a villa in Malindi, and the wife didn't know. And yeah, there's a sense of mistrust there where you feel like I still need to build something outside of this. Why does she need to know? Why is she encroaching? I view it a bit differently. I feel like if we are building a life together, you have a right to ask me like, yo, what are you dreaming about? What are you, what are you doing ABCD? How are you spending your money? How are you spending your energy? How are you spending your time? Like, you're not crossing a line by asking me about money or about
On
relationships.
that, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
The English call it a corollary question.
Mm.
A follow-up question
Put a subtitle
is
there.
it's what are the individual things that you need to cultivate that for marriage readiness, like just individual quality.
That's a great question. I asked myself that a lot, and even the guys ask me like, when did you know you are married? When did you know that you are gonna be okay to get married, or you are in that space to get married? I don't know if there was like a, oh my gosh, ding! Now it's the time. I think I just grew in spending time with my wife and my my girlfriend then, to feel like, yeah, I think we can build a life together. And I think it's having a clear goal or purpose for your individual life, and then seeing your partner's life and seeing where is there a place where there's even the slightest intersection, like where we can feel like we are building together. We might not be doing the same thing, but it feels like we are moving in the general same direction. I think that's so vital, so that it doesn't become push and pull where you feel like she's going this way, I'm going this way, and you're always contending, rather than celebrating each other when someone reaches a milestone that's important to them. I think it's, are we going the same direction? And I don't mean same career, I don't mean same job. I just mean, are we aligned? Like, do we believe in the same things? Do we have the same values? Do we hold the same things dear? We have differences here and there, but I think there needs to be like a general, yeah, we are going this way. If you find yourself like you're always like, it feels like, I don't know, maybe you can ask, yo, are we actually building the same thing? Are we passionate about the same things? It's important to ask, so that you don't ask it, um 2-3 years down the line. And sometimes I feel like that's where people are. We don't ask these questions pre-marriage, and then we get to the place where we are married, and then bombshells start happening within the marriage, where you find out, whoa, actually they were going that way, I was going this way, shucks, now we have to end this thing. So maybe my thing would be, spend as much time pre pre marriage to find out if you're going the same way. And one thing I'd add to that is, we have this thing for, date with intent. Like, I feel like sometimes we enter it with a very skewed.
Yeah, I think part of it came from the purity culture,
Yeah.
where. So I think the problem, and just to echo what you're saying, I
Yeah.
think sometimes we have wrong reasons. I think you have to get married for the right reasons, and that's definitely one of the wrong reasons, where it's very possible for Christians to be into marriage more than the person who's right in front
Exactly.
of them. Yeah,
Exactly.
so there's actually no personal connection,
Yeah.
but because it's been put on a pedestal and it's something right after my degree, I have a job, I can take care of myself. The next logical step is to get married.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely one of the wrong reasons. I mean, among many other wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it play out in the sense where someone enters a dating relationship and feels like this, there's no other way it should end up, only marriage. And so you see 67 red flags, 32 purple ones, and maybe one
But you're
green
so
one.
focused. Yeah.
But you're so focused on that goal that you ignore all flags and enter a situation where you shouldn't have entered. But I'd say still have that intent, but don't be obsessive about it, where even the God you're praying to is saying, yo, leave. And you're like, nah, you said stay, fam. You said stay. So I'd say, yeah, don't be super obsessive about the end goal, and take time to actually see, are you on the same page before you get to the end goal. Any last thoughts on
Yeah, I think.
marriage as a whole for our culture? I mean,
Yeah, I think reason. I think to add one to the reason, it's I think you also don't get married because you love someone or because they love you.
Yeah.
Like, are you actually good for each other? Right?
Love is not enough.
Love is good, but it's not enough. I know guys who getting married, especially Christians, like, man, I'm struggling with lust,
Yeah.
so I need to cure
Yeah.
this by getting married. Never get married to fix your character, right? Because God doesn't need marriage to make you holy.
Yeah.
He can use it,
Right.
but usually, if you're struggling with lust, it's actually amplified within marriage because then
That's
the
good.
novelty of sex is one of. Or don't get married because you're bored. I mean, go to House of Leather and just get something to play with.
Walk around in
Other things,
circles.
yeah, walk around in circles. But I think for I mean, I think it's obvious that there's definite challenges. I think there's one time I asked you, I was like, of all the weddings you've sang at,
Yeah.
do you actually have stats on how many have lasted?
Yeah.
I think we had that conversation.
Yeah, and I don't. Sadly.
Yeah. I think you should start curating.
Yeah. I just have awkward moments where you say, "Hey man, I played at your wedding." Ah man, she's not my wife anymore. Yeah, you have those ones, but I don't have the stats.
Yeah. I think my last comment is really around, I think some of the reasons why marriages are collapsing.
Yeah.
There are things that can be solved. They're normal, right? There's definite basis that the Bible makes it possible for people to consider divorce or disengaging from marriages.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the stuff that we are struggling with in our generation, bro, I'm like, is this really the problem? I think example is, right, think about the fight that you have with your wife.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm spirit-filled. I don't fight with my wife. We have rigorous exchange of opinion.
Whatever.
But in those moments, I'm tempted. Here's where my mind goes to. I'm like,
yeah.
One, if it's our upbringing.
Right.
Two, we went to different schools. 3, maybe if I had more money,
yeah,
wouldn't have this problem.
Right.
4, it's the friends and everything, you know. But I'm like, think about Adam and Eve. They didn't have childhood wounds. They didn't have in-laws. They didn't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
They didn't have friends. They didn't have anything to compare with.
Yeah.
But still, they ended up in a space where they're disconnected from God and from one another. So what we attribute as the chief cause of marriage, they didn't have those things.
But still
they ended up there. But I think what happened in that case is they lost sight of the vision of marriage, the biblical vision of marriage. And I think that's where, at a profound level, that's where our problems stem from. That we're sinners who are married, and God created marriage for companionship, for procreation, but for us to dramatize the gospel to the watching world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And especially with the way that God ordered marriage, where the male is the head, and that headship is not a hierarchy of importance; it's a hierarchy of responsibility to serve their bride. I think we just need to regain. We need to go back to the basics. I think that's what I'd say for our moments. Like, there's never been any time not to find something deeper or more woke or insightful. I'm like, let's just go back to the basics.
Yeah.
What did God make marriage for? As a man, what's my role in a marriage?
Right.
And as a woman, and what is the true meaning? And realize there's no such thing as marriage problems, but two people with problems were married.
Yeah. Yeah. If you need to rewind that Adam and Eve illustration, please do. That's good stuff. I think we'll end it on that note. It's if you're looking for a partner, or if you have a partner, whether you're dating, whether you're married, whether you're single, I think it's important to see how it mirrors what the gospel is. It's two sinners. Me seeing my wife is a deep sinner, but still having grace to be with her, to stand, and her doing the same. That's the same thing Christ did for us in our sin. He made us righteous. Even in that brokenness, he still provided a way. So I pray for grace for y'all as you navigate your marriages. I pray that they thrive. Those ones that are struggling, if you're listening to this, I hope that you can find
There's
an
hope.
avenue. Yeah, there is hope. There is hope.
There's hope.
You can find an avenue for reconciliation. And those who haven't stepped into this, that you'd ask for wisdom in all those things before you actually do. And for those who are single, that you would continue being single without feeling like you're lonely, feeling like you're disconnected. There's still fullness and value in what you're doing. So until the next episode, thank you, TC, for coming through, man.
Thanks for having me, bro. Greatly appreciate.
Appreciate it as well. See you when we see you. Peace.
Skis are flown, our conversation, essentially speaking.